With the newly redesigned PlayStation Home, I figured I would go ahead and give you guys a quick tour of some of the new spaces available. There's a lot of you that still doesn't know PlayStation Home exists, and again, just to reiterate what I've said in the past, PlayStation Home is free for the most part. It's not a game that you have to go out and purchase. I say it's free, but there are a lot of personal spaces, items, and clothes that you can buy for PSN for your avatar. However, most of the mini games within Home, if you win, you get free items. You can find PlayStation Home in the cross media bar underneath the PlayStation Network icon, and if it's your first time on, you will more than likely have to do an update. It will also take you through a tutorial on creating your avatar along with new tasks to get you used to the controls. I'm not going to go through all the spaces within PlayStation Home, as you can see there are a ton, but I will go through the main core spaces plus a few of my favorites. You will start out here at the hub, which is basically like a mini shopping mall. Every now and then you will notice they change stuff around in this space according to what new mini games or spaces they have. The Cutthroats game in the middle used to be a Cogs puzzle game, which I believe is still available. They have Threads, which is the main clothing store to purchase clothes for your avatar with PSN. Every now and then you will find some clothing items in there for free. X7 is the new club space which they made, which I will show you guys later on, as well as this teleporter which takes you to the mall. You will also notice a lot of these TV billboards in spaces which usually advertise new games and items within Home. The game store, in which you can purchase games for your personal space. The activity board gives you a bunch of quests to complete. Exclusives is another store, as well as the one across from it, Home Estates, in which you can purchase new personal spaces. The two that they have advertised in the window, the yacht and mansion, I already have. This area in the back is just like a dance floor. Usually there are a bunch of people around, nothing too exciting. The next space is called the Sports Walk, and the main thing to do here is to play Texas Hold'em. They have a sunset along with a little deck area with music, a sports trivia game in which I have yet to play, and also bar area. This is one of those spaces in which they could definitely add a few things, as there is a lot of open space. They also have 2 poker tables, and then in the back is another room where they have a bunch more Texas Hold'em tables. I do know that you can earn several different items when you play, but I honestly couldn't tell you what those are, as I have not yet played in this room. They do have a leaderboard to keep track of the all-time chip leaders and current chip leaders, as well as to see how you stack up against your friends. Next space on the list is known as the Action District, which has a few more mini games. This area will redirect you to the casino space, which I will show you later on. Across from this is a mini game called Help the Juggerbot. I've only played this game a few times, but basically you are given the option to choose between different mini bots, each with their own special ability. In this game, I chose to use the one that deploys a turret. The controls are a little tough to get used to and are inverted, so when you push the right stick down to aim, it actually moves up. From what I understand, after looking at the controls, there is no way to re-invert the controls, so you'll have to get used to the way they are. All you do is go through different waves of robots, and there may be a boss or something you have to face as you progress through, but I haven't played it enough to find out. They have the leaderboard for this game, and over on the other side is another game called Bootleggers 29, which is another first-person shooter. Once you enter, it takes you to another room with 3 warehouses you can enter to play. This game is basically like Team Deathmatch. You are put on teams of no greater than 4 on 4, and the objective of the game is to score the most points. You have to be careful when playing this because this is another one of those games that the controls are inverted. However, in this one, before you play, at the top gives you the option to invert the controls. Just make sure on both you select no instead of yes. You are given the revolver at the start. You will also find the submachine gun, shotgun, rifle, and Molotov cocktail scattered throughout the map. There is also a barrel, and if you are able to pick it up and bring it back to your side of the map, you are rewarded 300 points. This is really not a bad game, probably one of the better ones on PlayStation Home, and like every other game, this one also has a leaderboard. Moving on to Pier Park, nothing too exciting outside, just mostly places to relocate to other parts of PlayStation Home. They have a big Ferris wheel in which you can invite other friends. Over here is mainly an area in which a lot of people like to hang out with music. Also from here you can enter into the theater. Inside, you'll have the option to go watch other trailers for games, plus episodes of shows like the Hip Hop Gamer, who you see on the poster. Mainly a bunch of different areas to sit. I hardly ever see a bunch of people in here, as there really isn't that much to do other than watch trailers. Just to show you an example, I'll walk into one of the theaters. Again, not a whole lot of people come in here, so if you are looking to kill time and want to watch a bunch of videos regarding PlayStation, then this is the place for you. Back outside Pier Park, they also have the Indie Park building. Once inside, you'll notice they have a ton of different mini games. I'll start off over here on the right with the arcade games. Some of these require tokens that you will have to purchase, and there are a few that you can play for free. One of the free ones is Icebreaker, which is basically like Breakout. I know just from playing, as you progress farther into the game and to higher levels, you receive clothing items for your avatar as rewards. Echo Chrome, the other free game, is a puzzle-based game. I really haven't played it enough to really figure it out, but based off of the few times I've played it, it would seem to get boring real quick. Savage Cosmos is one of the games requiring tokens. The game kind of reminds me of Smash TV. You use the left stick to move around and the right stick to shoot. There is a time limit, and basically all you have to do is continue going through rooms until you find the exit. Superhero Madhouse is another token game, which reminds me of the NES Karate Kid. You start on floor 1, and as you get to the end of each floor there is a boss. Really not that difficult of a game, but I would imagine it gets harder the farther you go. The last one is Electro Kid, which also requires tokens. You go through each level picking up battery power-ups, and once the meter fills, you can press the circle button that kills everything on the screen. The jump control takes a little getting used to, as I found myself over-jumping some of the smaller platforms. I haven't played the game far enough to know if there are bosses in farther levels, but of the first few levels I've played through, at the end you fight a bunch of the same enemies that you've seen throughout the level. Over on the other side is a game called Los Pinguini Brothers. You have the option to choose between 3 different penguins, each with their own different abilities. You have 3 rounds in order to get the best high score possible. I would say the best one to choose would be the penguin on the far left, as he will travel the farthest. You really want to try to land on the iceberg in the far back that awards you 5,000 points. The game straight ahead is called Espionage 9, which is basically a lot like the game Battleship, but instead of the ships you have to find agents. This was my first time playing, and right off the bat on my first 3 turns I was able to find 3 of the enemy's agents. You are rewarded points for every correct hit, and a lot of times positive or negative points at random, which I really didn't understand. Every now and then you will be given clues as to where your enemy may be. In the end, I was able to find all the CPU's agents and won 179 to 173. Across to the other side is a couple tables of chess and checkers, which are both pretty self-explanatory games, so I'm not going to play either of those. In the center is a game called Gnome Curling. You have the option to choose between different gnomes, each with different abilities. The object of the game is to get the most points, and those points are rewarded based on how close you get each gnome to the center. I played this game against another PSN user, Texas Barbie. You can tell it was my first time playing, as my first throw came nowhere close to the center. My opponent didn't block the center, so I had no choice but to try to bank most of mine. Had one throw where I got lucky and was able to knock hers out of the way and help get my other ones closer in the process. In the end, I was able to come up with the victory, 3,800 to 2,100. At the top of the steps is a game called Give or Take, which is a little bit like Tetris. I have yet to play this game, but I'm going to go ahead and skip it. Then finally, over here where the big bowling pins are located is the bowling alley. Really not much has changed with this space as far as the looks of it go. This was one of the original spaces in home that was created. They still have several pool tables, also still a few arcade games. And for bowling, you now have the option to join in the queue, which will automatically put you into the next open lane. Before, you always had to wait to find the open lane, then hope that you were one of the 4 that joined before anyone else. They did change the control icons, as you will notice from one of my earlier PlayStation Home videos. They also added a replay feature if you would happen to get a strike or spare. The next stop is the Adventure District, and oddly enough is probably one of the most boring spaces within home, and you can tell because hardly anyone is here. You would think that there would be a lot to do here being called the Adventure District, but there really is not. They have a couple of tables to play chess, a big movie screen that is basically showing the same advertisement video all throughout home, and there is a building in the back with a huge dance floor and bar where people like to role play as bartenders. Other than that, the only thing here is the Cutthroats practice target range, and that is basically it. The last core space is the mall, basically the one-stop shop where you can buy everything you want for your avatar. Everything from new hairstyles, various different clothing, sidekicks, which are usually the little animals and characters you may see walking beside people, new games and personal spaces, plus furniture to go along with those spaces. I'm on the first floor of the mall, so I will quickly run through the second floor. Up on the second floor is the music you can buy for your personal space, other accessories, more games, and a bunch more clothing. The thing in the center is what they call Wardrobe Wars, where you can vote on others' pictures and win prizes. It's honestly a waste of time considering you can vote and give yourself a 10 rating. Now that I've showed you all of the core spaces, I'll show you a couple of my favorites. This first one is one of the newer ones called X7. This is the entrance. In order to get past the rope, you have to have one of the items listed on the board. I own all pieces of the mansion, so that allows me to go through. Once inside, you'll head up the elevator to the club. Down to the left is the dance floor. The bar in the middle is a store where you can preview new items as well as pick up a couple of free items. Then to the left of that is known as the VIP area. In order to get access here, you have to own all three of the mansion pieces, the diamond and gold suit outfits, or the diamond collection. And like I said before, I own all three of the mansion pieces, so that grants me access. Really nothing to brag about because there's really nothing to do up here other than sit in a hot tub or one of the many booths. This next space is RC Rally. Straight ahead you'll see an objective board, and as you complete objectives you will unlock upgrades for your RC cars. Most of the objectives you have to complete are done in single player mode, however there are a couple for multiplayer. As you can see, I have completed all the objectives, so I have all the available upgrades unlocked. There are several workbenches, and those are where you can make upgrades to your car as well as changing the body style and decals. The cars I have are among the 3 different body styles that you can choose from. When you go to race, there are 3 different tracks to choose from. However, if you're just starting out, you'll have to start from track 1, and you'll have to unlock the other 2 as you complete objectives. I'll go ahead and do a quick multiplayer race at track 1 just to show you guys an example. Like any other racing game, this one will take a little getting used to. You will also notice that you will not be able to floor it all the way around the track, and I have found that out the hard way after crashing the wall several times when I first started. The last space I'm going to show you guys is called the Casino, which is my favorite space out of all of them within PlayStation Home. You'll start off here in the lobby, and if it's your first time, they will give you a certain amount of credits to start with, along with the complimentary personal space room. Down at the bottom of the steps to the left, they have Keno, and those that are unfamiliar with the game, it is basically like the lottery. You'll have the option to pick 10, 15, or 20 numbers according to your bet that are 1 through 80. The computer will then draw 20 numbers at random, and according to how many numbers come up that match yours will determine how much you win. Across to the other side is the card game called War. The dealer deals you one card and a card of its own, and whoever has the higher card wins, deuce being the lowest and ace being the highest. If you both are dealt the same card, then you go into war where both of you are dealt 3 cards down and then 1 up. And again, whoever has the higher card wins. After leaving here, you will also notice that there are several slot machines scattered throughout the casino. The next game is Big Six, which is pretty self-explanatory. You put down what you want to bet according to what bill you think will show up on the wheel, and the odds of the bill showing up are located below each bill. So for instance, if I bet 25 on the $5 bill and it comes up, the odds are 5 to 1, so I would get paid 5 times that amount, which is 125. The next game is known as Blackjack, which most of you should be familiar with, so I'm not going to go into great detail on this game. But to sum it up, all you're playing against is the dealer, and the object of the game is to get to 21 without going over. The final room on this floor is the poker room, which is a bunch of tables to play Texas Hold'em. Again, another game a lot of you are probably familiar with. However, I will play this shortly. Take note of the name at the top of the Hold'em leaderboard, Eye Candy, as I will be playing against her and a few others. Back up the steps is where the VIP room is located. In order to get access into here, you need to have a total earnings of 100,000, which I have reached mostly by playing blackjack. You'll find the same games downstairs as you will here in the VIP, except for higher limit tables. I sat down and played my first game of Texas Hold'em at the high limit table. This game went on for about 30 minutes, so I'm just going to show you the highlights. I started off with the early chip lead. In this next hand, I was dealt 7 ace suited, which was one of the better hands I was dealt. Most everyone had made the call to see the flop until it got to this eye candy girl where she decided to go all in. This then left me with the decision to call. Worst case scenario, if I were to lose, it would put me roughly at my starting chip, so I decided to make a move and call. One thing you'll notice that I don't care for is the fact that once you go heads up, they don't clearly show you your opponent's cards. The flop comes 7 king 10, so that gives me a pair of 7s. My opponent could have possibly paired the king, but judging by her avatar's thumb down reaction, it is very unlikely. The turn card is another 10, giving me 2 pair, and on the river comes the 8 of hearts. Her cards are revealed as ace queen, so I come away the winner in this hand with 2 pair, and in the process eliminate Eye Candy, otherwise known as the Brett Favre hater. Later on in the match, after getting dominated by pocket aces from the hand before, I was left with 2,500 chips, and with the blinds at 16 and 3,200, I had no choice but to go all in as the big blind. I was dealt the 8 and 4 of diamonds, and after seeing the flop of king 10-7 with 2 other people in the hand, figured I was pretty much done. The turn card was a deuce, which was no help to me, and opened up the possibility of a flush draw with 3 spades. On the river came a 4, which gave me a pair of 4s. I honestly thought that was not going to be enough to win the hand, but surprisingly neither one of the other guys could beat it. So I ended up winning 5,900 chips, which kept me in the game. The very next hand I was dealt King 4. The flop came 3-2-5 of hearts, giving me an open-ended straight flush draw. The turn card was a Queen of Hearts, so as it stood I was sitting with a flush. The river card was another queen, so with that I figured I had the best hand and decided to go all in with the rest of what I had. The chip leader folded and I ended up winning the hand, knocking another guy out. So now we're down to the final 2, and from here it went back and forth several times. This next hand I was dealt Queen 6 and the flop came Jack King 10, giving me an open-ended straight. The turn card was a 7, which was no help, and on the river came the 9 of diamonds, which gave me the straight. I thought for sure I had this guy beat on this hand, however when I went all in, surprisingly he called. He too had a queen, giving him a straight as well, so we both split the pot. In the next hand the blinds were raised to 32 and 6,400. I was dealt 6-10 offsuit, so really a garbage hand. But having already put in the small blind, I figured I would call and at least see the flop. The decision paid off as I was able to get 2 pair. The turn was a 5, so that was no help. I didn't want him to see the last card, so I went ahead and went all in which he in return folded. Moving on to the next hand, I was dealt Ace 6. The flop came 7-3-4. That gave me a gut shot straight draw, only needing a 5. The turn card was a Jack and then an 8 on the river, both of which was no help to me. He raised 6,400, which in return would have put me all in, so the obvious decision for me was to fold. I found myself once again short stacked in the same situation I was before. He had basically a 5-1 chip advantage over me, and I was forced to go all in the next hand. I was dealt Deuce 6, which is another one of the many garbage hands I received. I thought I was done for, however to my surprise he folded. Had he have known I had Deuce 6 he may have called, but I definitely caught a huge break here. The very next hand, finally, I was dealt a good hand, Ace King suited. I went ahead and pushed all in, which he decided to call. The flop was King 7 deuce, so that gave me top pair. The turn was a 3, no help, and then a 9 on the river, which was also no help. His cards were revealed only having a pair of 7s, so I took the chip lead. Blinds were raised to 6,400 and 12,800. I was dealt Ace 7, and if you guys remember from earlier, this was a lucky all-in winning hand for me. My opponent called, so now we were heads up. The flop comes 8 deuce 3, which was absolutely no help to me. The turn card was an ace, which was a huge help to me, giving me top pair. And on the river, up came an 8, which pretty much sealed the deal for me, just as long as he didn't have an 8 of his own or a 4-5 for a straight. His cards were revealed as King Queen, giving me the come from behind win, and definitely one of the best poker games I've played, being the short stack several times throughout the game. I was awarded the first place trophy along with a bunch of other items. Once you have a total of 100,000 earnings, they then give you the VIP room, which I now have. When you get this room, it will basically be empty except for the bed and TV. I have since upgraded it and added a bunch of items that I have received throughout my time in home. They did get rid of one of my favorite spaces, which was the UFC space. However, I still have the UFC personal space. If you guys want to check that space out, I showed it in an earlier home video. That will do it for this update. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I only showed a fraction of some of the many different spaces available within home. So if you want to see more, feel free to go on to home yourself and check them out. This is Infamous. See you all in my next video. Peace.